You are listening to KSKQ 89.5 FM Ashland, Oregon, and 94.1 FM Medford, Oregon. It is now time for the Eartheart radio show, and a very, very fun show we do have planned today. Kick back, relax, and enjoy KSKQ on this lovely Sunday in the year of 2021.
Blessings and welcome to Eartheart Radio. Finally beginning to awaken from the illusion of separateness and broadcasting live from the KSKQ studios in beautiful Ashland, Oregon. Here's your host, Derek Moody.
It should really say happy host. Yeah, I'm the happy host, Derek Moody. Yes, been looking forward to this day for, well, about a month or so. And I was walking down the street one day and talked to my good friend David, and we decided to make a radio show out of our conversation. Thank you for being here. We will listen to some harmonious music today, courtesy of all kinds of great artists like the Sundays, B.J. Thomas, Pat McGlynn. We've got Ian Priestman on the way. Also, we will devote some time to discussing a saint. And, of course, I'm really looking forward to my discussion with my guest today. He's a DJ here at KSKQ. He produces and hosts a show on Monday evenings from 10 to midnight called Backpack Boombox. He's a real cool cat. He came from the East Coast, from the Boston, Massachusetts area, and you'll be able to hear his accent, which is quite awesome, by the way. I get to talk to people from the South and like the UK and the East Coast, and everyone has a different accent, and it's beautiful. And so we're going to talk about my friend who lived down in the Mount Shasta, California area, where there is an unprecedented amount of not only, like, say, quote-unquote, alien activity, but just lots of things like people seeing saints and all kinds of weird vortex activity. And we're going to talk about high weirdness at Mount Shasta. My guest today is David Downey Jr. How are you, brother?
Oh, what's up, Derek? I'm doing well.
Hang on, let me make sure. I got you. Say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I got you now, David. I just didn't hear the first thing you said there.
Oh, I hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for having me on.
Well, me and you ran into each other on the street, dude, like, I don't know, a month ago, and started talking about Mount Shasta, and the conversation morphed so quickly into something so interesting. We both were like, man, we should talk about this on the radio. So here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm so stoked to have the opportunity to share it. I feel like I should disclose, like, I definitely not an expert on all the really cool things that go on in Mount Shasta, but I definitely had some cool experiences there that I think I can share that might be of interest to some folks.
How did you end up there from the East Coast, David, or did you go to Shasta first or the East Coast first?
Well, I grew up in the greater Boston area, and shout out to all my fam back there listening. And from a young age, I was always interested in paranormal. Like my dad had some Reader's Digest kind of anthology books of different things that, just different paranormal esoteric practices. And I was always really into looking at those. And so I ended up in the Bay Area and was living in Oakland, California, with my girlfriend. And Shasta kept coming up in the research, right? Like, you said, all kinds of alien activity or rumors of Saint Germain. And we decided to go and visit. And so we went up a couple times and had some pretty cool experiences. And eventually we went up there on the eve of my 33rd birthday. And we slept in our station wagon up on the mountain on Bunny Flat, which would have been in May. And at that time of year, there's still snow everywhere. So it's, really cold.
Yeah.
And that early that morning, there were some people there, and they were dressed in like these ceremonial clothes, which I assumed they were Native American. And I went up and just tried to initiate conversation. And they didn't speak English, and they just kind of nodded at me. And this other gentleman came up, and he introduced his name as Yevgeny, and that he was from Russia, and that he was here with this shaman from Siberia who was visiting Mount Shasta to do a healing ceremony on the mountain. And we were invited to participate. And so that was like, I'm like, you know, of course I'll absolutely participate.
Oh yeah, wow.
You know, like what a cool thing. And so they also invited some other strangers that were just kind of hanging out in the parking lot that early morning. And you know, the shaman had us all in a circle. He struck a fire with one match, you know, on a windy day on a snowy mountain, and lit a fire, and he proceeded to start with his drum and chant, and he went around the circle and he was tapping people on different parts of their body. And when it came to my turn, I felt he was hitting me on places that I had sustained injuries in the past, and I was just really moved by it.
Wow.
And at the last thing, he hit me really hard in the back of my head, and I had felt like a release of negative energy of sorts, right?
Wow.
And was just really moved. And you know, the ceremony ended, and you know, everybody was emotional, and I had some crystals that I had brought to Mount Shasta, and I wanted to give one to the shaman and others to his friends and assistants.
Yeah.
And so I asked them permission, and they graciously accepted, and they in turn had gifts for myself and the other participants. And they gave us all these necklaces. I'm holding mine right now, and it's a carved deer antler. And so when they gave me mine, they said, this means warrior. And then when they gave mine to the one to my girlfriend, they said, this means fertility. And we all kind of chuckled because, you know, like, uh-oh. But Derek, within a month of that, we were expecting the birth of our first son.
Wow.
And so once we learned that we were living in Oakland, California, we knew that we had to move to the mountain to have our baby. And within 3 months, we were packed in a U-Haul and living on 5 acres up in Mount Shasta.
Unbelievable, dude.
Yeah, so it was a calling for sure. Like, and,
wow.
You know, and when we moved there, I send a shout out to my friend Nate who's listening. We were married on the mountain, my wife and I, barefoot in a mountain spring. And I swear, when we started to say our vows, like the sky opened up, birds started singing. I mean, I kid you not, like the place really, really does hold a personal magic for us. And, you know, we had, you know, just 2 years we lived there, and my wife almost describes it as like a 2-year-long vacation because of just the environment. I know you've probably experienced this when you're in a place like that. Time just tends to slow down.
Highly vibrational and high frequency, you know?
Oh, for sure. And it's almost like when you're there, you can recognize all the beauty that's in the world in a greater way. You know, like we're not so distracted by all the noise and sounds of the cities, right? The nature is just there. And there's a few things that happened while I was there, you know, like that I can't explain.
I would love to hear some of those stories.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I had the intro with like what brought me up.
Oh no, the intro itself was a story. That's awesome, dude. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro.
The backstory was
one of the things, we were renting a property on 5 acres, and there was a tree stump in the backyard. And some years ago, somebody had put a bulb in there, so there was a tulip growing out of this tree stump. And I was out there one day, and I knew it was going to be a full moon that night, so I was thinking it would be really cool to put my crystals on this tree stump and charge them, you know, with the full moon.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, and I was just sitting there enjoying the weather, and I got like I closed my eyes, just thinking about doing that. And when I opened my eyes, there was a crystal, a polished jasper stone on the tree stump that hadn't been there seconds before.
Wow.
It just appeared. I mean, and this is an isolated property. There's nobody around. It wasn't there seconds before. And so I was blown away. I don't know what that was, where it came. I mean, I know what it is. It's a rock. I still have it, but I don't know how it got there. I mean, I have
it's just
ideas.
that place has so many stories, David. I've read countless books from different, eras and different, like from the 20s and the 50s and the 90s, and different people that never knew each other that have some of the same sort of tales that all seem to be interconnected. So I don't question anything you're saying, man. I'm just blown away by it.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, I just don't know. I don't know. It happened, and so I took it as a gift. And so I had a couple days earlier got another jasper stone that I had in the house. And so I went and put it on the tree stump, and I left. And when I came back later that day, the stone was gone. And there was nobody that would go near that stump, or in the yard. So I just took it as like an interaction, like a trade between unknown
a metaphysical trade.
Yeah, and so that's one of those things where I'm like, there is something here.
That's wild.
Yeah, and in that same yard where we lived, my wife, son, and I, we rented this nice little house, but we slept in a tent for over 100 days straight, just because we love to be out there watching the stars. And one night we were out there and had a little campfire going, and the guy who we were renting the house from, his son is a fire inspector for the city of Sacramento. And so he came upon our little campfire and, was just talking to us, and, it was safe and we had water, so he was cool. And he is a very practical guy, not somebody who's going to be prone to, paranormal type stories or anything of that nature.
Right.
But he said, that when he was a kid in this field right up the street before another number of the homes were built, that he was playing with a bunch of young kids, like, all 12 years old. It's probably in the 70s. And he said that out of nowhere, a bunch of these, he described them, he's like, those bubbles that people call them, the orbs? He said a bunch of those orbs just came into the field and started dancing and playing with us for like an hour.
Wow.
And he said, me and the neighborhood kids, we didn't know what to do. We were just running around. And he said, like, then they flew off. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't really tell that many people about this, because it's interesting too. A lot of times when we do experience something amazing like that, sometimes we express it to others and then face ridicule or disbelief, which then makes us reluctant to share it with others. So he wasn't like, I believe this guy 100% because he was just, telling us because we were these young kids renting the property. But that's something that I didn't see the orbs, but I would take his word for it as that.
Well, Dave, back in 2012, 2013, I read a book by a man named Peter Mount Shasta, and I forget his original name, but back in I'll make it real quick. Back in the late 60s, he traveled to India looking for quote unquote like sacred lands and the, really spiritual places, making this pilgrimage, so to speak. He went to India, found a couple of the teachers and gurus over there, and they began, exchanging conversation. And they finally ended up telling him, look, you're from the States, you need to go back to America and go to a place called Mount Shasta because in fact, it's one of the most holy places in the world. And he's like, you're kidding me. I'm from Wairika, California. And I came from there, and that's right next door to Mount Shasta.
No, it's so true. And I think, I don't know him personally, but I think I've definitely seen him around.
Yeah, he's a really interesting teacher with a lot of books out. He was a guest on this show once, and a very interesting conversation with a lot of really good books out there. A little over my head sometimes, I'll have to admit it. Peter's got his thing, but he claims that he's ran into Saint Germain at Mount Shasta many times since the 70s, and he's never left. He's still there.
Yeah, I believe it. There's so many people I've met that are into Saint Germain and have had have had amazing experiences up on the mountain. And I've met people who just have all sorts of experiences, and I believe them because I've had some too. But some people just stay up in the mountain and never leave Shasta. Yeah, I have a friend, Barry David, who lives there, and he makes gemstone essences. With crystals and under the sunlight, and just a really cool guy. I met so many people who challenged, my belief system and opened my mind to different things. And that's like another, I know I told you this story, Derek, is one of the place I was working at, I had a customer who was a lady probably in her 50s, and I think she'd traveled and done some like rainbow gathering stuff over the years.
Yeah.
And gone around the States, and she was waiting in line, and this gentleman came in. I mean, I don't know if I call him a gentleman. He was a pretty rough looking dude, and he recognized her, and you could just tell right away that she did not want to see him. Like her energy just like closed. She was very kind of just almost scared, right? And he started to approach her, and I'll never forget, I was looking at her, and she stomped her foot and made like a kind of like a rainbow motion around her body with her arms. And I saw this. She created like a white smoke bubble, is the best way I could describe it, around her. And the guy that was walking towards her, it was like his mind short-circuited. He stopped, turned around and walked the other way. Wow. And didn't look at her again. And she got to my window, and I said, "Oh my God, Alice, like that was amazing. I just saw that." And she winked at me, and she said, like, she laughed, like giggled. And she's like, "I've been working on that one, honey." Like she was really proud. And I couldn't believe it.
Wow, bro. I've heard of similar things happening there. That is so wild. Yeah.
And I don't know what that was, or what she had been working on necessarily, but I mean, it worked.
Well, I think she's been tapping into things and displaying some disciplines that, like, say, for instance, you and I haven't been doing. And I think that we are all capable of having these certain quote unquote powers, and they can be used for good things. There was a few women, Dave, I don't know, about 10 years ago, there was 3 psychoanalysts. I think one was a psychiatrist, one was that kind of thing. They decided they had been hearing about these ladies, saints in India that quote unquote had miracles and things like that attributed to them. Well, they decided to go to India to explore, to see for their own eyes, and to live with 4 different Indian female saints for a few weeks each. And they lived with them, 24/7. They slept with them, the whole deal. Well, when they got back from that journey and they put the book out, which I do have a copy of at home, they asked them ladies when they returned, they said, "What is your opinion now of like the so-called miracles and the things that happen in India that don't happen here, for instance?" And they pretty much came away saying, all we can say is that we believe the laws of physics don't work the same there that they do here. And a lot of it's based on faith and belief. And it's just wild, though, It
is. That reminds me of a documentary I saw years ago, Naked in Ashes, which I think we might have talked about that at one point, about the
sadhus.
Yes.
Wow.
And just really, it's just a cool film to see that. And yeah, I mean, that was, I guess, one of the biggest things that area did for me, is it took whatever doubt I had in these otherworldly possibilities, and it erased that doubt. It solidified what I had always hoped, which is that there's so much more out there. And even if we don't fully understand it, just to get some recognition of it, and to acknowledge it is huge, right? And
the day you walked into the KSKQ office and I met you the first time, and we started talking within less than 5 minutes, we started talking about Baba Ram Dass, the teacher, and we had an instant connection, and that's kind of where this friendship started.
Yeah, I totally remember that. And it's funny, I'm glad you mentioned Ram Dass, because when we moved to Shasta, that's what I was reading Be Here Now. And so just being in that mindset and just being open to these things was huge. But yeah, that book was a tremendous, and I do remember connecting with you about that.
Are there any other stories that you can think of that you've experienced at Shasta?
Yeah, just one more, like, in particular, and
I'd love to hear it.
Thank you, Derek. Is I was hiking on the mountain at one point with my wife, and let's just say, like, of the two of us, I'm way more into the strange stuff. My wife is much more practical, and thank God I have her to ground me, or else, God,
she's the yin to your yang, right?
Absolutely. And so we were up on the mountain hiking past a place called Horse Camp, and it was it was snowing a bit, and all of a sudden around the trees and on the snow I saw a purple blanket of like a haze just kind of wrapping around things, and I was like, I've never seen anything like it. I didn't know what it was, but it was beautiful, and I didn't say anything to my wife. We just kept marching up the mountain, and we were up there for a couple hours, and when we came back, we were kind of around the same point where I had seen all the purple, and I didn't see it anymore. But all of a sudden, my wife, she says, I'm seeing something really weird. And I'm like, what is it? What are you seeing? And she said, I see purple all on the snow and in the trees. Wow. And I was like, oh my God. Like, so it couldn't have been like the reflection of the sun, because it was a different time of day. Wow. There's something there. I mean, I don't know what it is.
Well, Peter Mount Shasta focuses on this whole violet thing. I can't speak for him because I'll get it wrong, but it's a real beautiful thing he's got going, but it's something to do with like the violet rays. And so that really kind of rings a bell when you say purple,
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, there's just so many people that we met that, they're insistent that they know what's there, and I'm more of like, I don't really know what's here, but there's something here. Mm-hmm. Like, there's magic for sure.
I love it.
I can't name it, and I don't think any of these people are wrong, because I even have books in front of me. There's different beliefs about the mountain going back to early records from the Native Americans, and so it's just a special place. And one thing the mountain did for me, and I think if people were ever interested in going, is it really magnifies what's going on in your mind. And so if you're dwelling on some negativity, the mountain really can bring that to light, and you can either work with it and face it and overcome it, or like some people leave the mountain like they can't handle it. Like it reveals yourself to you, and it's too much for some people.
Yeah, the transparency.
Yeah, and so I know I spent time there, and I'd be in the most beautiful spots in nature, and I'd be thinking about this thing that I did, and I kept thinking, like, why does this negative thought keep popping up? And it was like I had to fully face it and deal with it. And once you do that, I was able to move on. And the 2 years I spent there, I was the best man. Like, that was the best version of me I've ever been.
That's great, Dave. Do you guys do you visit very often?
Derek, we haven't been back in a couple of years, but I think this is definitely going to be the summer to go back and drink some of that water.
Mm-hmm.
And
the headwaters.
Visit some of I love the headwaters. Visit some of the shops and see some old friends. But it's it's a special place, and I would encourage anybody that has any desire to visit because, like you said, it is like a magical place right here in the United States.
Yeah, it's like a paradise playground. There's all the caves and the crags, and the McLeod Falls is where we're going to head in the next week or two. And yeah, just a wonderful place, guys. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to KSKQ Radio. You are at the Eartheart Radio Show. I'm Derek Moody, speaking with my awesome guest, David Downey Jr., who is the host and producer of Backpack Boombox, 10 p.m. to midnight every Monday. David, it's been really cool talking to you, my brother, and I really appreciate your time on this Sunday. I know it's a big day for you with your family and stuff, so thanks for taking the time.
Oh, Derek, thank you so much for having me on. I just want you to know how much I appreciate you. You're such a leader for KSKQ and in our community as well. So mad love to you and to everybody out there listening.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you very much, my brother, and let's get together soon, okay?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, bro. Keep in touch, and hello to your awesome wife and kiddos.
All right, thanks. And hey to Tracy. Take care, Derek.
Okay. Take care, bro. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye. There you go. You're at KSKQ. One good guy right there. That's right, David Downey Jr. My friends, I want to say thank you to my sponsor. Very, very, very grateful to the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library for being the Eartheart Radio sponsor. Support for KSKQ comes from our listeners and from the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Media Exchange. Since 2002, RVML's mission is to provide access to information that inspires, heals, and connects. With books, audiobooks, and DVDs to borrow, purchase, or exchange. Open Tuesday through Saturday in Ashland from 10 to 6 at 1757 Ashland Street. More info and videos at rvml.org. You are at the Eartheart Radio Show. We do have music on the way, some positive news, and we're going to speak about Saint Eknath. Right now, though, I've got something special, if I can fit on my phone. Please tell me it didn't go away. Did it go away? It might have. Oh, that's okay. I am used to doing these things on the fly, and I'm just going to go ahead and continue doing it that way. Right now, I'm going to SoundCloud, if you must know, because I'm just going to be transparent. It's easier than trying to, act like I'm doing something and then just falling on my face. I'd rather just fall. My friends, this is Ian Priestman, a gentleman from England who met a woman from Oregon, right here where I live, and they fell in love, and I do believe they live now in Oregon. Yes, they do. This is Ian Priestman, a great tune. It is called A Fateful Chance. Thank you to Goat Girl for arranging this. You're at the Eartheart Radio Show and KSKQ. Thanks for being here.
A baby girl was born on a day that triggered fate. Or were forces at play well before that day? Maybe this birth was part of a larger tapestry, going back to the start of time. 6,000 miles away in the UK, a June baby arrives. It's 1960 in a tough working town where love makes you vulnerable, so you don't let your guard down. It's a concrete countryside where grass is rare. Here factories are the farms. The houses are minute and crowded both inside and out amongst the chimneys and the fog. But the child is happy, playing and listening to songs about a mystical place called America.
Old heart so young, find the other one. Would their lives cross? Maybe not. Would the energy cross the sea? With the key to harmony.
Life is a fabric sewn with chance. The cloth must align for the couple to dance. A childhood on the farm, she found her rank amongst her many siblings. Moving into South Willamette Valley and the high desert, she played in the countryside amongst the ponderosa pine and the Douglas fir. In the Oregon rain, the Cascades were always on permanent watch. She grows up and she heads south. Love follows close behind, although she doesn't know it. A mid-valley Oregon backwater awaits, and there she rebuilds her life. Love looks on, although she doesn't see it.
What heart so young, find the other one. Will their lives cross? Maybe not. Will the energy cross the sea? With the key to harmony.
Life is a fabric sewn with chance. The cloth must align for the couple resists the town that ties him down and sets off on an adventure to the mythical land called America. He thought he was going alone, but love followed close behind, although he didn't know it. He also didn't know that his fate was heading for a date in an Oregon backwater town. Soon the day, the hour, the second would arrive when they would become entwined.
Like a flower in bloom, she walked in the room. The lines of fate had crossed in place. The energy had crossed the sea. They found the key to harmony.
Nothing could have stopped fate. It was too strong. They were destined to meet and be one.
Community, love, truth, nature, spirit. Eartheart Radio on KSKQ.
You are at KSKQ in the Eartheart Radio Show. Reverend Moody with you. Thanks for being here. Support for KSKQ does come from our listeners and from the Sneak Preview supporting the Rogue Valley economy since 1986. Sneak Preview covers community news, local businesses, art and theater, and publishes a calendar of events. Every month, nearly 100,000 copies are distributed in 4 separate editions, serving Ashland, Medford, Talent, and Grants Pass, and online at sneakpre.com. And here's a song from Pat McGlynn I'm trying to queue up for you guys. If I could just get it to the beginning. I'm having issues with my playlist, and that's okay. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the playlist, and we'll go from there and see what happens. Maybe the headphones would help me. There you go. Hope you're having a great Sunday, my friends. I do have Saint Eknath. We're going to speak about Saint Eknath very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. Right now I'm trying to queue up this Pat McGlynn song, which isn't giving me an easy time. I don't know what's going on. I think I'll just have to reset the whole thing. And as a matter of fact, let's do this.
Saints, angels, avatars, sages, yogis, holy men, medicine men, helpers, elders, revolutionaries, and advocates of love. Today we honor and show love, respect, and gratitude.
Yeah, that's right. I got some music on the way, but right now let's talk about Saint Eknath, a.k.a. Saint Eknath. Saint Eknath was an Indian Hindu saint, philosopher, and poet. He was a devotee of Hindu deity Krishna. Precise details of his life remain obscure. It's generally believed he lived during the latter 3/4 of the 16th century. His parents died while he was young. He was then raised by his grandfather. His great-grandfather was another revered saint of the Warkari sect. Celebrations commemorating Saint Eknath are held every year in March. Eknath's writings include a variation of the Hindu religious text Bhagavad Purana. He also wrote a variation of the Hindu epic, the Ramayana. He also interacted and introduced a new form of devotional melodies called Barud and wrote nearly 300 of them. In 2003, India issued a stamp commemorating Saint Eknath. He was known for his spiritual prowess and his immense efforts in awakening people and safeguarding Dharma. Saint Eknath rendered to the advice to the people not to accept any distinction of high and low. He was also one of the earliest reformers of untouchability within the Indian caste system, and he publicly showed courtesy towards the untouchables, and he frequented them. Saint Eknath died at age 66 in 1599 CE. It's always interesting to find out about these high-frequency people, right? I've got a song by Pat McGlynn from his SoundCloud. It's called Words Aren't True. It looks like it's queued up. If it's not, Pat, please forgive me. I do believe that it's queued up. It's saying it is, but if it starts out in somewhere that's not in the right position, please don't put my head down on the chopping block, bro. It is Pat McGlynn, Eartheart Radio Show, KSKQ.
Now we come to the story. It's so true. Difference between life and love and
Gratitude is our attitude. Thanks for tuning in to Eartheart Radio on KSKQ.
I'm a better man than ever.
things aren't as bad as it seems, no matter what they say. News with an agenda is meant to instill fear. True news can instill hope.
You're at the Eartheart radio show on a Sunday. Hello to everyone listening today. I appreciate you all. Hello to my friend Karen Lee in Rhode Island. Hello to Brenda Rosh in Ashland. Hi, Rick Jensen. Hi to my buddy Oddly Toddly. Much love to our regular listeners, Bob and Red in upstate New York. Of course, Tony Tenaglia is tuned in. Hello to Pat and Janine and Mia in Edinburgh, Scotland, and my lovely daughter Audrey in Portland. I know she's tuned in. She doesn't ever miss an Eartheart show. And if I didn't mention you, let me know you're listening. Give us a call, 541-482-3999. I'll answer the phone. But right now, I got positive news stories for you. Positive news number one for the animal lovers. Good animal news. A third country has announced some good news for rhinos this year. Populations of the endangered one-horned rhinoceros in Nepal have increased by 16% over the past 6 years. The new national rhino count in 2021 estimates the current number stands at 752 individuals, up from 645 in 2015. Rhinos were counted across the country between March 22nd and April 10th, including within 4 national parks, including Chitwan. In the 1960s, there were only around 100 left in the country. The overall growth in population size is indicative of ongoing protection and habitat management efforts, of course, protected by area authorities. Meanwhile, in Africa, 2020 was a remarkable year for rhino protection in Kenya, where not one single rhino lost its horns or its life last year, a feat not achieved since 1999. And in South Africa, which contains 80% of all African rhinos, 2020 was the 6th consecutive year that rhino poaching incidents dropped in the massive Kruger National Park. Since 2011, deaths have plummeted by 60%. It's a pretty big number, man. Now, don't ask me what I think should be done to these poachers if they're caught, because I don't want to tell you. Let's see. Positive news number 2. A skating rink in Los Angeles, California, is set to be converted into a homeless shelter, which will bear the name of the late Alex Trebek, the famed host of the Jeopardy TV show. Yep, Alex Trebek, who hosted the popular game show for more than 3 decades, made a donation to the California-based Hope of the Valley Rescue Mission back in November, when the organization was attempting to purchase the closed Skateland rink. Now, at the time, the nonprofit, which works against poverty and homelessness, wanted to turn the building into a housing facility for those in need. The Trebek Center, however, will hold 107 beds in honor of Alex Trebek, who did die last year. His wife said he was proud of the mission and was deeply grateful to be part of the solution, always lending a helping hand by offering both hope and practical and financial assistance to those in need. The Skateland rink was a staple in the San Fernando Valley in California for over 60 years. They did close, sadly, in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 23,000 square foot building will undergo a $6 million renovation before it officially opens as a shelter. In 2011, the Trebek Family Foundation was formed to better support charities. Long live Alec Trebek. I'll take Alec Trebek for 50, please. Positive news number 3. Thanks again to David Downey Jr. for being a guest on the show today. It was a lot of fun. Positive news 3. Recently, a group of fraternity brothers learned that their second mom, quote unquote, needed help to retire, and she didn't even need to ask. Jessie Hamilton worked as a cook at the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity house on the campus of Louisiana State University from 1982 to 1996. Though she was a single mom with 3 kids of her own, she treated the young men in her care as surrogate sons, listening to their worries, offering counsel, and even driving them to doctor appointments and giving them rides to the grocery store on occasion. Quote, I enjoy doing it. They enjoyed my cooking, she said. They came into the kitchen. They'd sit on the counter and tell me problems. After leaving LSU, Hamilton found herself juggling several jobs, trying to keep afloat financially, like many of us. And then in 2006, at age 60, she took out a 30-year mortgage on the house that she planned to retire in. Over the years, she stayed in touch with several of the fraternity guys, among them Andrew Fosiati, who's now 52 and owns his own car dealership. He said that Jesse Hamilton treated him like a son. And during the pandemic outset, her financial difficulties were of concern. So he did all he could to get financial donations, and he padded it with his own little comfy financial donation, and he raised $51,765 for this awesome lady. A few days prior to her 74th birthday, they did proclaim April 3rd Jesse Hamilton Day. That's pretty cool. And they presented her with the donations. Andrew said that she's the most giving person he's ever met, and now her mortgage is completely paid off, and she was left with an extra $7,000 on top of it. How cool is that, right? You always want to hope that you can just get, people will take care of you if you need it, right? That's the way it should work. And, and energy and love is a big boomerang, man. It goes round and round. Let's see. I've got some more music. I've got a little less than 10 minutes left. Next week on the show, author Gary Gautier returns. He's got several books out. We'll discuss those books and find out where he is. He was in Mexico. Not sure if that's where he's at now. I've got something I'd like to dedicate to my own mother. She's no longer with us, but my mother was a big fan of the artist B.J. Thomas, who was very famous for a tune called Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. Remember that one? I bet you do. So I decided I would play this song for my ma. She's not here, but she was a big fan of my radio career, and she listened religiously. And this is for her. It's B.J. Thomas. For you, Mom. Her name was Bonnie. She departed this earth on January 19th, 2009. Rest in peace, Ma. Here at the Eartheart Radio Show and KSKQ.
Raindrops are falling on my head, and just like the guy whose feet are too big for his bed, nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling. So I just did me some talking to the sun, and I said I didn't like the way he got things done, sleeping on the job. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling. But there's one thing I know, the blues they send to meet me won't defeat me. It won't be long till happiness steps up to greet me. Raindrops keep falling on my head, but that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. Crying's not for me, 'cause I'm never gonna stop the rain by complaining, because I'm free. Nothing's worrying me. It won't be long till happiness steps up to greet me. Raindrops keep falling on my head, but that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. Crying's not for me, 'cause I'm never gonna stop the rain by complaining, because I'm free. Nothing's worrying me.
Rest in peace to my beloved mother, Bonnie, from the Eartheart radio show in KSKQ. BJ Thomas, raindrops keep falling on my head. You know, I get a lot of people asking me, hey, Derek, what do you think karma is? What is karma, Derek? Things like that. You know, I'm no teacher. I'm just a student on the path like you all are. But I have this short little recorded thing by Thomas Ashley Ferrand, and it's called The 4 Varieties of Karma. Check it out.
Any illness we have is because of karma. This entire body is composed of karma. We come to this planet because of karma. So in any discussion of disease, naturally we're going to touch upon karma at some point. And karma actually comes in 4 different varieties. First they call sanchita karma, which means all of our karma from all of our lifetimes. We cannot work out all of our karma in any one lifetime. So in any one lifetime, another kind of karma is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha, which means that for this particular embodiment and includes as part of it the position of the planets at the time of our birth. So the whole science of astrology centers around that portion of prarabdha karma that relates to the planets. Kriyamana is the returning karma from another lifetime that we have chosen to deal with or work out in this life. And Agami karma is our present actions which will produce a result sooner or later. Severe health conditions that we may encounter are a result of decisions that we made before coming into embodiment. Probably the most severe example of that is cancer. A very karmically based disease where we've chosen to work out a particularly large chunk of negative or unpleasant karma through one dramatic, painful event that we call cancer. But even this, we can do some things about, and we'll talk about that later. There are mantras for the sun. There are 12 gifts of the sun. I talk about those mantras and other mantras relating to prarabdha karma in much more detail in the program From Sounds True, Mantras, Sacred Words of Power. But for our purposes here, there are 2 sun mantras that particularly relate to healing. One mantra invokes the golden-colored healing rays of the sun, known as Hiranyagarbha. And the mantra is Om Hiranyagarbhaya Namaha. And I'm going to chant that now 12 times so that you can get a feel for, and looking at the card that comes with this CD, you will find on the Sun Mantras for Health the Om Hiranyagarbhaya Namaha mantra. So if you're not driving along and listening to this...
And you know, my friends, I'll cut in right there, and I'll play some of the mantras later because I'm running out of time. You are listening to the Eartheart radio show. I hope you found that interesting, about karma. I'd like to read something from the Bhagavad Gita. This is called Seeing God. Those who see me in all things and all things in me are never lost to me, nor am I ever lost to them. This is called transmigration. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. Such a change does not disturb the minds of those who know the truth. One more, secret of secrets. This knowledge is the king of education, the rarest of all secrets, and the purest knowledge, because it gives direct perception of those by self-realization. It is the perfection of religion. It is eternal and joyful performed.
You've been listening to Eartheart Radio with your host, Derek Moody. Eartheart Radio is produced by Derek Moody. in association with Sister Tracy and Krishna Consciousness. Please tune in every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time for more Eartheart Radio.